and he's only been in the country for a few days. He already wants to move here. Billy West, thanks for coming in.
Jet lag.
Let's just lay out.
I heard naked girls were good for jet lag.
Yeah, we can arrange some of those if you'd like.
Thank you, my friend.
Nicky,
Thank you. I might be 56, but I can still fog up a few windshields.
Yeah, well,
Are you really 56?
Yes, I am.
You said that earlier. I thought you were just joking.
No.
Wow, doing well. What's the secret to looking like that at 56?
I'm a vegan. I don't know what that means, to anybody, but... You know,
Yeah, see-
I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I had enough meat for 12 lifetimes. I'm telling you, it's all where the stockyards were. So we had meat for breakfast and meat for lunch and meat for dinner and meat for dessert. And then before you went to bed, you said, have a nice glass of meat, you know, nice glass of warm meat. Drink your
lovely
meat.
tripe shake.
Drink your meat and shut up.
So that is the secret, because we do have people. We had Chris Isaac in here, and he's like about 53, looks about 35. And we had Richard E. Grant, he's like 49.
Alan Ruck?
Looks about, 30. And you're going, what's the secret? And apparently, no drinking and no drugs is the answer.
But he might have had his time. You know, I sure did.
Okay.
I chased the buzz to Peru when I was, years ago in the 80s. Me and a bunch of chowderheads went down to Peru. It's like, why don't we just go where they make the stuff? Because it was so expensive and it was always lousy, the Coke. It's like this. I've been clean for 22 years, but we went down to Peru.
Wow.
And I almost got killed like many times. But you're so high that you're walking in and out of the jaws of death and you don't even know it. I had an Uzi shoved up my nose because they were shooting people in the streets. The kids were protesting a bus hike fair. And they mean business. All of a sudden, I saw an Uzi for the first time in my life, and I see someone get shot. I run over to the guy and start screaming at him, and I forget where I am. That passport means you're giving up everything you came from. And the guy turns around, and he realizes I'm American, and the only thing that saved my life was that it would be too much trouble. The photojournalists would be there, and it would be like a big mess, So he just stuck it up my nose, and he went, vamos, And I realized.
And you complied.
Yeah, I did comply.
Okay, once you've got the Uzi up your nose,
But I was
probably...
so high, I was throwing money out the window. Nobody has money for a bus here. I'm throwing change out the window.
We'll all.
But you've come good, and people who are listening to your voice now and don't recognise it, of course, Futurama. I mean, it's every night now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
On Channel 10, so you're heard every night. So.
Yeah, man, all this constant exposure to radiation is making me thirsty. Good news, everyone. Bad news.
Which is your favourite voice to do?
I love doing Dr. Zoidberg because he has all this cool meat hanging off his face.
He certainly does.
Yes, get me a sandwich from the dumpster. And leave the nuggets on it, young lady.
And I do Zap Brannigan, Master of Space Time, and everything else in between. And, winner of this year's Modesty Award.
Now, am I wrong in saying that voice was originally Phil Hartman?
You know what? Everybody says that.
Is that not true?
And, well, they wanted him to be that guy.
Pardon me.
Because he was into that.
Yeah.
And he died. He
Yeah,
was
that's
murdered.
right. That's true.
And by his own wife. And the thing was, I knew him before that. Like, I lived in New York, and he was in L.A., and he called my house one day, and I'm on my way home, and my wife called me up and she said, guess who called here? And he was looking for you. I said, who? She said, Phil Hartman. And I said, I know enough people in my business that could pull an elaborate joke like that.
Right.
And, it could be Maurice LaMarche, like Pinky in the Brain or whatever. I know a million people.
Well, Phil Hartman, for people who don't know, was Lionel Hutz.
Yep, News Radio, of course.
And, of course, Troy McClure on The Simpsons.
But I knew him from Saturday Night Live.
Yep.
But he called me up and he said, I'm just calling to tell you I'm a big fan of yours. And I was, like, blown away. And I kind of said, I kind of know who you are, too. And I said, you took the spark plugs to that car with you when you left Saturday Night Live. And, yeah, we all got to move on, he said. And he said, listen, you ought to come out to L.A. And I said, I don't know what, I'm in radio. I was working with Howard Stern then.
Yeah, wow.
He said, you should come. I just quit the show, as a matter of fact, and he called and he said, if you ever come out here, I'll help you get acclimated. And he did. When I went out there, we did an M&M's commercial, and he played my nemesis, Chalky Bar. This strutting candy bar. It's like, I don't even melt. And I go, I don't know if that's true. And then he melts, of course, and he's screaming, but he had that. He always loved that big, like, disc jockey voice.
Yeah.
And when we talked, we found out we had this common love of those old, big, dumb announcers.
Yeah,
who loved far and away above anything else in this world the sound of their own voice. You know, yeah, I carry my balls in a wheelbarrow. You know, this is Johnny Benton, the human cannon, saying what's in you. He's got to come out, and that's what rock and roll is all about. Before we slap against the friends here, 1956, Mr. Roy Orbison. Yeah. And then he said, coming to the Worcester Centrum. Meh. You know, they didn't want to give birth to the word because it's so precious. It's like, maybe I can milk some more out of this.
Phil Hartman, is there a funnier impression than Phil Hartman's Charlton Heston? That's one of the all-time greats, I think.
I just thought he was so brilliant, and it was so sad, you know, because he was one of the good guys.
One of the nice people, I hear.
One of the great nice guys, you know, and so it restored faith, you know, that once these jackals get tons of money and fame, it's like they're too good to talk to you. And,
right.
No, he was just real genuine, and he showed me around a little bit. He told me, you know, you got to come out here. He said, do you ever do any auditions for movies? And I said, no, really. No one thinks to ask me that. And he says, you should be. You know, I mean, he was so generous.
Right.
I mean, real generous.
Well,
like not insecure in any way.
Well, that's all well and good, but enough about that bloke. We want to talk about more about your amazing resume,
Mr.
Billy
Me
West.
and the world within.
Billy West is sitting in for this hour. He's done every voice you can think of. Futurama every night on Channel 10. Ren and Stimpy. So many movies, so many of your cartoon voices. But I know it's a specialist subject of yours. Actors being hired to do voiceovers for films just on the fact that, you know, the name alone will get people in.
That's a weird notion because there isn't a scintilla, a speck of evidence that the movie makes any more money than if you had Will Smith doing the voice, or if you had, you know, like my pals, Maurice LaMarche or Jeff Bennett or any of these guys. Right. But I don't know what it is. We used to save their asses. They used to come to us and say, listen, we don't have any money, and we were wondering if you could do 10 characters. We've only got X amount of money. And you'd say, well, yeah, what do you want? You know, but there was never any money. Right. Nobody in Hollywood has any money. There's always like, we don't have any money. You may have heard of us. We're a little startup company called Disney. You know, nobody has any money. It's like it's the world's stupidest businessmen. Nobody makes any money. I don't get it.
But when did this craze begin? I mean, in the old days, you would have someone like George Sanders who had an amazing voice. So he was perfect for the lion in the Jungle Book. But when did it get to the point where just, you know, we'll get, I don't know, Shia LaBeouf should be in this?
Yeah, let's get Cameron Diaz. Because she has a 9-foot mouth, you know? Why? There's nothing coming out of it.
Are there any that you do rate? Like your Eddie Murphy's, surely? Would you go along with some
I
of
would,
his work?
because he understands characters that transform the vocal cord. In other words, you don't go in and do a voice of a character who looks exactly like you, and then they tell you, he should sound like you. But a lot of them don't know how to act sonically, and it's theater of the mind. You know, I'm sitting here talking to you guys, and I was saying, you know, I could say I'm sitting here naked with a tinfoil hat on, and
it looks lovely.
Yeah, thank you very much. With the celebrities, to me, there's a big deal about it because they won't see us for roles, for features, animated features.
Right.
They won't audition us because they already know who's going to do the voice, and to me, there's a big difference between being a celebrity and being an artist, you know?
Yes.
In America, you can be a celebrity for farting the national anthem.
That guy's great.
Well,
Have you seen that guy?
He's with us on Monday. Yep.
Where's my Emmy?
I wish
I could
Where's
say
my Oscar?
that he was doing that with his mouth. But something that you have done, I mean, am I right in saying you've occasionally been asked to fill in, well, quite a few times it seems, for people who've died, and you've taken... Did you do Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd for the Looney Tunes movie? Was that?
Yes, it was Space Jam.
Well, right.
And I was working on the Howard Stern show at the time. It was 1994, maybe, and he was producing and directing Howard Stern's movie.
Oh, yeah,
Private Parts,
Yeah,
which was a training film for every little nipper disc jockey in the United States, and now they're all doing his show. You know?
We want to talk about that show, but just tell us, what was it like, you know, filling the shoes of Mel Blanc, surely the king of this kind of work, really?
It was miserable.
Really?
Because everybody that stuck their head into the room while we were recording had their own perception of what the character should be. And meanwhile, he was whatever director was directing him, that's what he was. Sometimes he was a little gentler. Sometimes he's a little more witty. Somebody was just crazy. But depending on the director, whether it was Friz Freleng or Robert McKimson or Bob Clampett, you know, the famous directors.
Yeah.
And so I'd be doing it, and somebody would poke their head in and go, he sounds too Brooklyn. And I'd be like, thanks. And then they'd leave, and then some other schmo would come up and go, he sounds too Jewish. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very
What
much.
about, didn't you also take over for Shaggy and Scooby-Doo from Casey Kasem?
Yeah, that happened afterwards, but I only did one episode. Like, when I came out of Space Jam, I did bugs like,
Oh, and I got to be close to the most important religious figure that we have in America, Michael Jordan. And I got paid in carrots, too, Doc.
and I did Elmer Fudd, which is the weirdest voice in the world because it's 2 gears. He shifts. Everybody thinks they can do it, and they'll go,
Oh, you rascally rabbit.
Yeah.
and it's not that. It's like he's a 3-year-old, like a
Right,
total
right.
innocent, and he's walking through the woods, and he's brain dead. A brain dead hunter is a terrific image. Like somebody who took one. And, you know what I mean? Pow, and he's got the little hat with the earmuffs on, and he comes in, he goes, shh, be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits. And then all of a sudden he'd shift gears into high gear and he'd be like, "Oh, wait, come out of there. I'll bless you, rabbit. Say your prayers." And he goes, "Oh, my goodness, I've killed the little bunny rabbit." And he'd become like childlike.
Is that the hardest one to do? Which is
It's pretty hard, because sometimes I can do it right and sometimes I can't. But I admit my flaws. But I got the gig.
beautiful? Look, there
And
is-
the other one you were talking about after that, Shaggy.
yeah.
Well,
Because Casey Kasem's still alive.
of course he is. But the thing was, I said I was a vegan, but he's like a militaristic vegan.
Is he just?
And he would read the scripts and he'd go, "Come on, Scoob, let's go get a hot dog." and then he would go, "Why does it always have to be a hot dog?" I said, "What do you mean?" "I mean, can't they eat, like, veggie snacks, like a veggie burger or a veggie hot dog?"
They're vegging out later in the back of that van.
And so he really had a problem with it, and he didn't do it for a while, so they made this one called Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. And I was doing Shaggy for that, and, it was a one-off, really.
Right.
I don't have the emotional investment in characters I didn't create.
Right,
like,
right,
I'm a
of
day
course.
player. It's like somebody picks you to be Bugs Bunny. It's like, if you base your life around that, you're insane, because it's a day player job. They
Yeah.
can just tell you to take a hike next week. Oh, we get this other guy.
Yeah,
and believe me,
okay,
they
yeah,
always
right,
do.
Right.
They don't want to hang anybody's name on that.
Okay.
Because the cartoon character never asks for a raise, but the name will.
Who knew that the cartoon voice business was this ruthless and
It is
this
ruthless.
bitchy?
Yeah, they don't care which voiceover is, beating up the other one in an alleyway for the gig, as long as the guy doesn't ask for too much money.
Hey, you mentioned Howard Stern. I'm a massive fan of Howard Stern, but the problem is in this country, people only know him for the headlines, for when he's got lesbians nude in the studio. And,
Or when the FCC goes after him,
Yeah,
because he's saying things that everybody else is saying too, except they'll target him.
but they're just like the car chases in the movie. The actual show itself is a bloke saying what he thinks.
Yes.
For often up to 5 or 6 hours a day. I was in New York listening to the Howard Stern show when it was on normal radio. I think it was meant to finish at 9 o'clock, and often he'd just go till 20 to midday.
I know, and the thing was, somebody calls in, he goes, "I notice you don't play any records." And he would go, "We play plenty of music on this show. I just never get to it."
What a show.
No, it's really fun, and it was great being there because you got to just make fun of everybody, and
And what was your role on the Howard Stern
because
circus?
whatever came up in conversation, whether it was a politician or
Right.
whether it was, back then it was Rudy Giuliani was mayor of New
Yep,
York.
yep, sure.
And he was one of these guys, he talked like this when he talked. He had a severe, like he was drowning in his own spittle. And now he's running for president. And we're going, wait a minute, this is insane. This guy was like, some fascist, mayor of the city. It's like, that's right, Heil Hitler.
But you're living in a country where the entire cast of Predator are now in elected office, so
I know. You gotta be like famous in show business to be president now.
First it was just animated cartoon voices, now it's president.
I know, but you know what I have to say is that now they're running out of like celebrities that can actually like tickle the ribbon in a microphone.
Now,
How bitter
Billy,
am I?
I should. You know what? We don't mind. This is the show for it. Get it out of your system.
I'll get it out of my system.
This is what we do every day.
Yeah, here I am 10 years too late, and I'm doing a James Gandolfini impression. This is the last effing Sunday dinner I ever have at this house. Meadow, take off that eye makeup. You look like a whore. I'll wrap my stinger around your head and jumpstart you with it. Dr. Melfi, I think I got a problem.
Mr. Soprano, you're suffering from secondary anxiety with delusions of persecution.
Oh, Christ, good. I thought I had dandruff.
That's a very hard one to do when the kids are out of school. Very nicely done, Billy.
Hi.
Very good.